So to kick off this weekend's conference, we are honored to have with us Dr. Jerry Vockley to share an update on INFORM, which is the International Network of Fatty Acid Oxidation Research and Therapy, and the latest news in the FAOD community. Dr. Vockley is internationally recognized as a leader in the fields of inborn errors of metabolism. His current research focuses on mitochondrial energy metabolism, novel therapies for disorders of fatty acid oxidation and amino acid metabolism, and population genetics of the plain communities in the United States. He has published over 270 peer-reviewed scholarly articles, is the principal investigator on 4 NIH grants and a co-investigator on 7 others. He has an active clinical research program and participates in and consults on multiple gene therapy trials. Dr. Vockley has served on numerous national and international scientific boards, including the Advisory Committee to the Secretary of Health and Human Services on Heritable Disorders in Newborns and Children's, where he was chair of the Technology Committee. He is also chair of INFORM. Dr. Vockley serves as chair of the Pennsylvania State Newborn Screening Advisory Committee and the American College of Medical Genetics Therapeutics Committee. He is a past president of the International Organizing Committee for the International Congress on Inborn Errors of Metabolism and the Society for Inherited Metabolic Disorders, and co-founder and editor of the North American Metabolic Academy. We're beyond grateful for Dr. Vockley's support as MitoAction has planned this weekend's program and his tireless commitment to the patient community. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Jerry Vockley.
Well, thanks, Kyra, and it's a pleasure to introduce this year's MitoAction and Informed Families meeting. Once again, of course, we're virtual. Hopefully, this is the last time that we'll have to do that. But I'm really pleased to welcome you to the meeting. I'm going to start off by just offering a few thoughts to set the tone for the next couple of days. And as you can see, I titled this introduction "A New Day for Fatty Acid Oxidation Disorders" because I think it really is one. First of all, just to start off acknowledging my disclosures, number of companies that I have helped drag into being interested in fatty acid oxidation disorders. And as I said, this is the second of these international virtual meetings, and you'll be here for a couple of days, so almost 2.5 days, and I hope you'll learn a lot. MitoAction has really stepped into the void in the last couple of years in bringing families together for discussion and learning. I heard just prior to taping this introduction that we had about 500 people registered for this. That's remarkable, and it's really terrific that we're able to bring this to you in a virtual fashion because it does allow many of you to be here who might otherwise not. However, I hope, as I said, we'll be back in person and offering some sort of hybrid next year so that we can continue to have the most of you, as many of you as possible, but also have some chances to meet face to face and talk. Doing any kind of meeting, including an online one, does take financial resources, and I'm very pleased to show you the sponsors of this year's symposium. Ultragenics, our presenting sponsor; PTC Therapeutics, our platinum sponsor; gold sponsors Every Life Foundation for Rare Diseases and Reneo. And then sponsoring the virtual lounge, SSIM, the professional society out of for metabolic diseases out of Europe, and sponsoring the virtual exhibits, Care 3. So thank you to all of you, and I urge you all to go and take advantage of looking at what the sponsors are presenting to you in their virtual space. They're there to talk to you over the course of the meeting and provide you with information about their organizations, their companies, and their interests in fatty acid oxidation disorders. Now, I have to start off by apologizing because the reason I'm being taped here is that I'm not going to be able to be live for this conference. I have a family vacation planned far in advance of this, and so I'll be on that. I'm sure you'll be in good hands with Kyra and the rest of the live presenters, and I hope you will take full advantage of them. I'll start off by updating you a little bit on our INFORM activities. INFORM, as you can see at the bottom logo there, is the International Network for Fatty Acid Oxidation Research and Management. And it is both a professional organization and a family-oriented one. It was formed in order to promulgate, we really need to change that word, information on the research and management of disorders of fatty acid oxidation. And it's designed to provide a collaborative framework for ongoing communication and research among the members. And you'll see in a minute that we also have an Informed Families part, a component to the network as well. In better times, we met in person in 2017, a lovely meeting down in Rio, and in 2018 in Athens. And at all of those meetings, we've had 5 of them now, maybe we're 6. We've been able to invite families and support travel to come to those meetings. So hopefully we'll be there soon. But as this meeting, our Inform meeting will be virtual in a little later in this year. Now we did have a virtual meeting last year as well, and it was held as using the same platform, offering lots of opportunities for interactions. We had about 180 registered attendees, and that was for last year's scientific presentation. That included researchers, clinicians, nurses, nutritional counselors, dietitians, research coordinators, patients, families. It was very well attended, and we had folks represented from 26 countries, and you can see the list there. I'm not gonna read them all. Our 2021 virtual meeting will follow the same format. We'll have 2 split days rather than 1 complete day, and I'll call your attention to our keynote address on the 27th of October from 11 to 12. That'll be Emil Kakkis. Emil Kakkis is the CEO, founder, president of Ultragenyx Pharmaceuticals, and he really was vitally important in bringing triheptano and Dojolvi to the market, not only because his company ultimately picked it up and moved it across the finish line, but he was very, very supportive in trying to figure out how to make that happen. And that should be a very interesting talk, and I invite you all to be there. You can see the list of speakers. There'll be some opportunities to go and see posters, and there'll be long-term posters, presentations available for you to go and browse at your leisure. This is online at informnetwork.org. You can see that, see it there, and also register for the meeting there. I mentioned the website, and thus far the Inform website has really been one of our major activities. In addition to our annual meeting and our monthly webinars, we try to keep it in an informative website up for you. And here's some statistics. Web gurus all like statistics. So here you can see that we have, since the website's gone up several years ago now, had 25,000 visits per year average, which I think is quite remarkable, and almost 20,000 just in the 3-month period between March and June of 2021 this year. So it's increasing in volume. We get an average of 169 visits per day in that same time frame. So I think we're meeting need. Our Informed Families web page has averaged, or rather had 555 visits year to date, and our Ask the Experts it has been hit 588 times. Now, I'm not exactly sure how you get to that page without going through the Informed Family, so they should be equal, but somehow or other, I guess you can link directly to it, and so you miss the landing page for Informed Families. You can get to that by just going to informednetwork.org, and then there's a section up there that says Families. You go right there. We've had on average, or rather, we've had visits per question, 47 to almost 1,500 visits per our questions, which exist as frequently asked questions online. Here are the broken down by page. The top Informed website visits. You CPT2 folks have been on the Informed website 3,500 times, and it can go down. It goes down from there, but it's been quite an active website. We have a number of plans that we would like to put into place over the next couple 3 years, and these are in no particular order, just the way they came to mind. And I'll tell you that funding is never far from my mind, because trying to keep these programs up and running is expensive, and so one of the things that we would like to be able to do is to seek some sort of stable funding for expanded programs, instead of having to fundraise on a yearly basis just to try to keep things going. We have participated in a lot of clinical research since the consortium started, but we would also like to get involved in more in encouraging clinical research. And one of the talks that you'll hear me give recorded later in this session is in fact on participating in clinical research and in clinical trials. So please listen to that. It's an important aspect of what we can do to help you understand how drugs come to market and why we need you to participate in that. Of course, we want to keep our annual meeting going, and because that's where we all get to interact. Serving as a clinical trials network, I'll expand on a little bit in that other talk that I just spoke about. So I urge you to listen to that one. We have what we call a virtual sample bank that we've put together. This is a way for those of us who have been studying fatty acid oxidation disorders over the years to let others know what samples we have available. You know, we have blood, we have pieces of tissue that might have come to us, fibroblast cultures, skin cultures that are very useful for studies. And it's hard to find them, and so we've been putting this together that allow folks to go in and just look to see who might have samples. It's not terribly functional yet. It doesn't have a lot of content, but we're working on it. I would love to have you all be involved in improving our Informed Families content. There are a lot of places that folks can go for medical information, but not specific to fatty acid oxidation, and we would like Informed Families to be that place. And then something we haven't really addressed very much lately, or really at all, provide education for non-specialist clinicians, because all of you go to your PCPs, and we'd like to be able to provide them some information on these disorders that they can understand and help them help you. Now, it really has been a banner year for fatty acid oxidation disorders. It started almost a year ago this time. I think we announced it right at the beginning of this meeting that Dojolvi, a triheptanone, the generic name, was approved on June 30th of 2020. This was the culmination of about a dozen years of work in my lab and ultimately in collaboration with Ultragenics. And I give all the credit to my Children's Hospital team listed there. But that's one drug for a lot of different diseases. And if you have followed the literature on Dojolvi, you'll know that it makes things better, but it doesn't fix everything. And so we still have a ways to go. And how do we get there? Where do we go, and how do we get there? I'll spend a little bit of time talking about that, and hopefully we'll spend some time over the course of the meeting to answer that question. Now the simple answer is just enjoy the meeting. You're going to get a lot of really interesting content here, and by participating in this meeting, by participating in clinical trials, and by engaging with each other through some of the social media options out there, through MitoAction, through Informed Families, we hope that you will see that there will be that things are really changing. That we will go from having the first drug approved in 2020 to maybe having a half a dozen different drugs available over the next few years for you. One of the most interesting aspects of fatty acid oxidation disorders is that it's only really been about 20 years since they've been identified reliably through newborn screening. Up until then, we really needed you to get sick before we could tell you had this disorder, and sometimes that sick meant you actually died. So that's a pretty terrible way to find out you have a disease. And newborn screening has gotten us away from that. I recently did a review of newborn screening and fatty acid oxidation disorders, and you can see that the U.S. incidence is about 1 in 9,500 births. That's a remarkably high number. About half of those are MCAD deficiency. The other half are long chain deficiencies, and of the long chain deficiencies, VLCAD and LCHAD by far are the most common. The great thing about newborn screening is that mortality dropped from a maximum of about 70% in some studies for the long chain fatty acid oxidation disorders to very near, not quite zero, but very near zero with newborn screening. It saves babies, and it allows us to treat those babies as they get older. And now those babies are starting to come into adulthood. And it's quite a remarkable accomplishment. This is going on in all states now, and many countries internationally. The downside is that therapeutic options are really still limited, and as I said, I hope you'll see that things are going to change here, and as I hope much more rapidly over the next few years. One very important aspect of these kinds of meetings, and a role that both families and professionals, healthcare providers, play in helping to care for fatty acid oxidation disorders is through advocacy. The newborn screening has expanded over the last 20 years in the United States and in individual states because of legislative mandates that have come across because of your advocacy. In the current session of Congress, House Bill 482, which is the Newborn Screening Saves Lives Reauthorization Act of 2021, is really an important piece of legislation that will make sure all of the gains that we've made through newborn screening stay in place and allow us to provide those same benefits to other families with other disorders. So if you haven't had a chance to be involved in that advocacy, MitoAction has some information on their website that you can look at. I don't think we have anything up on Informed Families, which we really need to do. But you can just Google Newborn Screening Saves Lives Reauthorization Act of 2021, and you'll be able to find that without any difficulty. One of the biggest aspects of what we do when we treat our patients and when we have sessions like this and when you meet with your home metabolic providers and talk to each other is education. It really is a critical component of taking care of these disorders. When you go to see your PCP, you want that doctor to know what a fatty acid oxidation disorder. Similarly, when you walk into an emergency room, you want the emergency room docs to say, yes, a fatty acid oxidation disorder. Show me your protocol letter. And then that way you don't have to be reinventing the wheel every time you touch bases with a care provider. So this is an important aspect of what we do, and hopefully will continue to be a major aspect of both Informed Families activities and MitoAction activities. Research is where a lot of the action has been. It's why we got triheptanone approved, and I here you can see both my laboratory team on the left and my clinical research team on the right. And it's been a remarkable few years. We've gone from having one disease a treatment that we've been following for, or we've been developing for long-chain fatty acid oxidation, i.e. triheptanone, and now we've got at least a half a dozen, probably as many as 8 drugs now in development, either preclinical or being picked up by pharmaceutical companies interested in developing them for fatty acid oxidation disorders. One of my other talks in this session will be on fatty acid oxidation therapies, and you'll see that we've got a number of them for long-chain fatty acid oxidation disorders, including the first gene therapy program getting started for VLCAD deficiency. But we have 2 out there for MCAD deficiency. And so listen to that talk. I hope you'll get excited about it. And I hope that when the time comes that I'm saying, hey, I need volunteers to test this drug, that I'll be able to engage you in a clinical trial. I speak in broader terms about clinical trials in that therapeutic talk, and this is one of the summary slides that clinical trials provide the only mechanism for obtaining the FDA approval for a new treatment. There are no FDA-approved treatments for most rare genetic diseases, and we have 1 for long-chain fatty acid oxidation disorders. And the bottom line is that if we don't get patients to volunteer, we have no clinical trials, and we will end up with no treatments. So please take a listen to that talk. Think about it seriously. And I should have plenty of opportunities to engage with you over the coming year or years about clinical trials and things that we're happy to be able to develop as we move forward. And really, unlike 10 years ago, when all we had to offer you when you were diagnosed or your children were diagnosed with a fatty acid oxidation, which was to say, well, be careful. That was the bottom line. That was all we had. the sky is now the limit. We will likely have gene therapies. We will likely have RNA therapies. We will certainly have more traditional medications, small molecules that you take by mouth, and that will be a remarkable development compared to where we've been. Enjoy this meeting. Stay active in the family groups. Volunteer your time to help them be strong advocates and participate in educational efforts, and above all, participate in clinical trials, because that's what we're going to need to get these approved. So with that, I'm going to say thank you, and hope that you enjoy this virtual symposium. And I look forward to reconnecting with some of you and meeting many of you in future face-to-face venues. With that, I'll send it back to you, Kyra, and get things on the road.
Thank you so much, Dr. Vockley. We wish you were here with us today, but unfortunately, you are taking a well-deserved break and vacation, and so we are really happy for you for that.